everyone, and welcome to the Playbook with yours truly, Joe Trahan, and the great, my man, Ed Werder. Hey, Ed, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Joe. You?
I'm doing really good, although I'm still trying to process my thoughts about ties and why do I despise ties so much?
I know you're
Uh,
wearing a very nice one
but
with a
I
nice
do,
knot in it.
and that's the thing. I mean, wear them all the time.
Yeah.
What's my problem with ties? I have a problem. I have a big problem with ties. I will say this: I don't have a big enough problem that I think the NFL should change the way they go about the tie overtime rules. I think they actually have the overtime rules pretty close to right now. I wouldn't mind if they made it 12 minutes long just to add a little more time element to it. But I really don't have any qualms with it. What I
Cowboys want
do,
to make it 1 second shorter.
yes, they do. They want to make it a 9:59 would have been perfect, or Jack Sanborn could have just turned his head around. One or the other would have been just fine. Of course, it's a 40-40 tie between the Cowboys and the Packers on Sunday Night Football, and
Origami, Joe.
yes, scoregami, 40-40. Never happened, right?
How about
Never
that?
happened. I'm sure you went down the rabbit hole too, Ed. I went down the rabbit hole, and it is interesting, right? That's the first ever tie for the Cowboys that resulted from an actual overtime game. Their six previous ties were all in the 1960s before overtime, sudden death overtime back then started in 1974. So it was scoregami, and it was also a strange and completely unfulfilling bit of history for Cowboys fans and their organization. So let's dive into it. And I think we need to start with this. There was so much hoopla made about the return of Micah Parsons, Ed, and I do want to point this out that Michael was able to generate a lot of pressure, and he graded out really well, 94.2, 94.8, something like that on Pro Football Focus. But even though he got tons of pressure and he played a quietly really solid game, the Cowboys were ready for it. And I think Brian Schottenheimer and especially Dak Prescott deserve a lot of credit for operating uh, under what could have been even a worse situation thanks to Micah Parsons.
Yeah, I think they were really committed, as you might imagine, given the headlines that this trade has attracted and the, you know, personal influence Jerry Jones had over it and all it meant to him as a general manager, that they were not going to let Micah Parsons embarrass them a month after making this trade. And you're right, he did statistically deliver another dominant performance as a pass rusher. But watching the game, being at the stadium, like you didn't get the sense that he was affecting that many plays. I mean, they accounted for him very well. And to me, the most important thing, and I do think that early on, his presence affected their play calling. Like I thought they came out
Yes.
and were very conservative in what they were willing to call because they were so afraid of the Green Bay pass rush. But over time, they seemed to develop a sense of comfort and that they could handle it. But just like Jerry said on the night they announced the trade, we want to get ahead and run it, Micah. Well, he didn't get ahead, but he did run it, Micah. The first play was at Micah, and then it was a 3-and-out on the opening series, and all three plays were run plays. But I thought Dak did an amazing job of handling the whole situation in terms of directing pass protection, pocket awareness, emphasis on getting the ball out quick, using his mobility when necessary. I mean, he was the best player on the field in a game where 80 points were scored.
Yeah.
And he's really played, other than maybe Josh Allen, he's played as well as any quarterback in football for the first month of the year. But it says a lot about the Cowboys defense that they don't win those games. Like last night,
Yeah.
listen to this, Joe. Last night was the 22nd time that Dak Prescott and the Cowboys have scored 40 points. It's the first time in his 10-year career they didn't win the game scoring 40 points.
That's the defense you're dealing with right now. And that you always come with the nuggets, brother. That's a nugget. And when you hear it, it makes sense. But still, the fact that it happened that way, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense defensively. To button up the Micah Parsons thing, I will say this: he did make a couple of huge plays in overtime with the Cowboys in a goal-to-goal situation. Right, that second down when he ran down Dak Prescott, when he saw some some light there. And I'm curious how many other Cowboys fans had a little Tony Romo playoff game flashback when it looks like the end zone is imminent and oh
You know
geez,
what's
no, it just
interesting
doesn't
about
happen.
you saying that is so I listened to Jerry outside the locker room for the first 10 minutes, and then I went into the locker room. He was still talking when I came out. I waited him out, and as he was walking toward the elevator, I said to him, Jerry, I'll say this. I do think you won the George Pickens trade. I'm not sure we can say even now that you've won the Micah Parsons trade. And he said, I'll take that. I agree. We did win the George Pickens trade. Then he said, as for Micah, he says, what would you rather have? Would you want Micah out there tonight, or would you rather have $200 million in cap space, Kenny Clark at defensive tackle, and up to the 6 players, really good players, we're going to turn this into? And I said, well, I guess I would also want a defensive end who's not going to tackle my quarterback as he's running for a touchdown. He said, oh, I don't think he's going to score. And I said, oh, did you think it was going to be like a Tony Romo situation? He goes, you got too good a memory.
Well, I'm glad you and I were on the same wavelength because that's all I thought about when I first saw it. I went, "Oh, we have been here before, man." But on that play, Micah stepped up in a big way, and then on that third down play, right, it was the pressure in Dak's face because Dak was able to look exactly and right at Micah as he was coming right at his face, and I do think that's what caused him to sail it. I don't know if he was just trying to get rid of the ball. It looked like there may have been something cooking in the flat with Javonte Williams. I don't know if he couldn't see it because of the angle, but when it came to closing time, right? Micah made he and it's not going to be talked about a lot, but I watched a ton of football, and he put his handprints on that game because if they do score a touchdown there, the pressure gradient just ratchets up for Jordan Love. And while obviously, they scored 40 points, um, there were times in that game when the Cowboys defense actually, for moments, I won't even call it times,
In the first half.
moments. Yeah, for moments in the first half, I felt like they actually gained a little bit of traction. And I also think that on the whole, the one thing they did when James Houston created that strip sack was I think they may have gotten more into LaFleur's head than Jordan Love's because I feel like LaFleur, and I was talking with Andrew Seeley, our producer, and by the way, he said he had a blast watching the game with you, sitting right next to you last night. Um, I, I think that LaFleur got too conservative against an awful defense. And, we've talked about this in terms of the Cowboys before. I mean, just throw the ball downfield and let's see what happens. I mean, you can't not against a team like that. And they stopped taking shots. And I know they tried the flea flicker trick play when they were looking for it and it just didn't work and it wasn't there when they took the check down. But still, I mean, I just the
Checkdowns are big
aggressiveness.
plays against this defense, Joe.
Yeah, unfortunately, that too. But I just feel like they lost some aggressiveness, and I think Matt LaFleur almost lost
Yeah.
that ball game for his team.
Yeah, I think that both head coaches are the offensive play callers for their respective teams, and I thought they both did their worst work on the final drives when their teams were in position to potentially score a touchdown that might have swung the outcome in their favor. I mean, Schottenheimer talks all the time about being physically dominant, running the football when you want to run it, when the game's going to be decided. They got inside the 6-yard line, ran it on first down, and that was it. They didn't run it again.
Yeah.
Now, I think he did the right thing taking 3 there
I do
because
too.
if you've had 3 plays and you haven't gotten in yet, you really want to have one play to decide whether your team wins or loses because you're going to give up points on the back end. I don't
For
care how
sure.
far the Packers have to go.
For
They're going
sure.
to score on you, at least a field goal. And so I agreed with him on that, but I thought they should have made a more concerted effort to run the football in from the 6 than they did, as well as Javonte, Williams is playing, given, Clayton Adams, the offensive coordinator, and the line coaches have talked about we're a better run blocking group than we are pass protection. I really think they should have made more attempts to run the football down there. And then for LaFleur to almost blow the game with their casual approach down there and get within 1 second of not getting that field goal to tie the game, that would have been cataclysmic for him.
If Jack Sanborn manages somehow, some way to turn his head, the Cowboys win the game. He wouldn't have had to get the pick. He just would have had to have the ball bounce up and have his hands touch the ball and probably knock it up in the air somehow, some way. So, I mean, just yeah, you're right. And I mean, in today's NFL, to see those kinds of things, Ed, it's really troubling because there's communicate. Remember, there's communication between the coach and the quarterback, and so why he's not saying hurry, 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 get up, get up, get up on the ball, on the ball, on the ball. It just, if I'm not mistaken, did I not see this? Is this not the universal huddle signal? I saw that, and I'm like, what is going on? What are we doing? I mean, and it was strange. It was very
They
strange.
had plenty of time and plenty of timeouts to make a better attempt to attack
Yeah,
a vulnerable Cowboys defense on a night where they didn't stop them the whole second half.
no, three
Green Bay
touchdowns.
scored on, I think the two teams scored on 9 consecutive possessions.
That's right.
An
Green Bay had
NFL
three
record with
touchdowns, two field
7
goals.
league changes, the whole deal. Most ever in a tie game. And yeah, Green Bay was really clumsy at the end of the game and really forfeited their best chance to win the game. And how devastating would that have been for the Cowboys to have that performance offensively from their quarterback, negate that pass rush. I mean, they came into this game, Green Bay was the number 1 scoring defense in the NFL. They're giving up 14 points a game. The Cowboys scored 40 on them and still couldn't beat them. And they could have lost if the Packers had handled the situation better at the end of the overtime.
Yeah, I was just finishing up, our 6:30 show on WFAA and on air. Cynthia said, "Hey, I got a friend at the gym. He's a Cowboys fan. I mean, what should I tell him about the game?" And I said, "Well, listen, you were a 7-point underdog and you didn't lose. So there's that. There's
Yeah.
that. And with the way that defense plays and with the way Green Bay was set up deep in Cowboys territory, I suspect every Cowboys fan thought they were going to lose with the way that played out. So
When the game started, I thought they were going to lose, and when the game was ending, I thought they were going to lose. And so
exactly.
I think there was a real, because their ties are so infrequent, and you mentioned the Cowboys have never had one. Dak and the other players were sort of like in the locker room, like didn't know how to process this and didn't know how they should feel about it in terms of, was this an accomplishment? Was it a failure? What was it? And ultimately, I think they felt like there was a great sense of frustration just in general that they could never get the game. They could never stop the Packers. But I really felt like, they came from behind in regulation and secured overtime and then let the Packers score. And then the same thing, they scored first in overtime, let the Packers score. So I think from that sense, they felt like, wow, we're lucky we didn't lose this game,
Yeah, and I think you're right. And listen, I think on the whole, we watched 3 hours and 47 minutes worth of football, and neither team was able to finally and ultimately make a game-winning play.
Yeah.
And that is strange, for those players to try and process and work through. And what does it mean? Well, I mean, I think that's what you get when you have the highest rated offense by yards and the lowest rated defense by yards. I mean, you're gonna have some topsy turvy and strange and turbulent, games and trying to figure out what you are is difficult. And I think that there are a lot of Cowboys fans who are feeling that angst when they were having that second cup of coffee today because they were bleary eyed after staying up all night watching that game.
I'm guessing that Green Bay feels a greater sense of defeat than the Cowboys do
I agree.
about the outcome of that game. I think Green Bay had a better chance to win the game overall than the Cowboys did. So the Cowboys were somewhat fortunate, but definitely the sequence at the end of the half, gave them a chance and seemed to create some momentum that they took advantage of. And but still, you've been in your stadium twice, you've gone to overtime both times, you've scored a total of 80 points, and you're 1-0-1 in your own building.
It's rough. That's rough.
Yeah.
That's really rough. I mean, if the bar is scoring 40 points and you can't guarantee a win, we got issues. We got issues. But instead of the issues, I do want to point out, some of the positives because I think there were plenty, especially on the offensive side of the ball. When you look at the way that the chemistry between Dak Prescott and George Pickens had really took a next step, and the first catch on the sideline in the first half, the incredible leaping, grabbing, go completely limp and keep your feet in bounds catch there inside the 10-yard line was remarkable. But it was also this, Ed. We saw that a couple few times in training camp where Dak would throw the ball up and let Pickens make a play. And in the opener, we saw it, and the timing of the jump didn't work for Pickens. He really didn't make a good effort at the
Right,
ball.
right,
But
right.
if they can get something working on that, man, that could be lethal because if you've got a Javonte Williams doing what he did, whatever, 20 some carries, 85 yards or
Mm-hmm.
so, if you get that and you also have someone who can take it down the rail, and then when CD comes back, you've got a guy who could just flourish underneath and run after catch, this will be the best version of that Cowboys offense that we talked about at training camp.
Yeah, I think that this is a huge opportunity, as we talked about, for George Pickens coming in the trade from Pittsburgh for a 3 and a 5. He's in a contract year, so he's got a lot to demonstrate. There are questions about his character and what kind of teammate he is, and for him to do what he did last night, 8 catches for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns against a Packers team that had not given up 100 yards to a wide receiver in like 2 years. And to do it in that circumstance where the Cowboys were down their best receiver, really needed, something from him. He delivered on a consistent basis. And, you talk about that catch on the sideline, he's one of the best in the league at that over the course of his career. And, if you also look at their careers, Dak Prescott's one of the best in football in completing contested throws into tight windows. And Pickens, what does he do well? He's the number 2 receiver in football during the time he's been in the league at making contested catches. And so it should work out well. It seems like there's a perfect fit between those two. And what the confidence they're developing now should only help when CeeDee Lamb gets back, because there's nobody on earth Dak has a better repertoire with and a rapport with than CeeDee Lamb. So, yeah, I thought what Pickens did last night was really meaningful. I mean, he scored a touchdown, 4 touchdowns in 4 games. He played 14 games with Pittsburgh last year and had 3 touchdowns. And he never had touchdowns in back-to-back games. He's got touchdowns in 3 consecutive games for Dallas now. So yeah, what happened last night is a huge development for him.
And listen, Dak Prescott showed once again that under pressure, he can operate and he can not just operate, he can flourish. Um, he's leading the league in week 4 so far in terms of, completions and completion percentage under pressure. And he also had a 138.1 from pressured pockets game against the Packers Sunday night. 138.1 in terms of pressure. That's off the charts. That's ridiculous. I mean, that's why you're going to hear a lot of people saying, this week that Dak's playing is good, if not, better than any quarterback in the NFL right now. And that's why Micah did provide that pressure, and Dak and the Cowboys had answers most of the time. And that's something that they can hang their hat on. It's just a matter of, man, Ed, I just don't know if Matt Eberflus has enough ammunition, has enough in his arsenal to keep this thing going defensively, just so that, Dak and that offense can have a chance to cook. And I know that, Siobhan Ravel's coming back soon. Um, uh, and Clowney, you would think would develop and get better as he tries to, round back into shape. But man, it's hard to see it from here.
Yeah, they've gotten personnel back. I mean, they got Deron Bland back. It was interesting the way they used the corners last night, with Kaiir Elam basically being the stalwart who played almost every snap. And, Trayvon Diggs came back and didn't play until the 3rd series, which seemed like a benching of sorts for him. He played the same number of snaps as Deron Bland, coming back off a 2-week absence from a foot injury. But, yeah, I mean, the secondary just appears so – I mean, Elam gave up 2 touchdowns to Romeo Doubs, on in-cuts inside the 10-yard line. One of them was on 3rd down. Like, this team cannot make a third down play on 3rd down.
Yeah, I think
Just like in the, I mean, I think they've got the worst third down
it
percentage in
is.
the NFL. They can't get
58
off the field. So
if
if you can't make a play on third down, now you're exposing your vulnerable defense for another series of
I
downs.
know. I
I
mean,
mean,
it's
in the
crazy.
overtime, they had a fourth down play to get off the field and win the game, like 4th and 6, and
Yes.
they couldn't pull it off. They
And
had
yeah,
two of those kind of plays against the Giants, in regulation. Couldn't pull it off. Couldn't protect the lead for 43 seconds last night. Couldn't protect the lead for 25 seconds against the Giants. I mean, yeah, it's bad. It is bad at every level. There's no pass rush on a consistent basis. And so now the corners have to cover more. Now they're, Malik Hooker's going to go out. He's with an injury, and he's actually probably the best pass coverage safety that they have. And they've gotten personnel back. They've gone out and signed people, and still it's really equated to much of nothing so far.
yeah, no, and that's that just goes back to you know not doing enough in the off season, and for however and we've had a lot of stories this past week that came out in terms of how the Micah Parsons deal went down. However you think it went down, it certainly doesn't feel like they had a coordinated effort in terms of making sure that this defense could be sound enough, right? And listen, Jerry can say, well, Dak's the highest paid player in the league and CD's one of the highest paid receivers, but I'm sorry, that doesn't fly for me because I see other teams able to manipulate and work with the cap and have plenty of talent on both sides of the ball, and the Cowboys just haven't been able to do it on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, as we've said before, at every level of this defense, they need a player and in some cases two. It's like 5, 6 players that they need just to be a functional defense, much yet be a stellar defense. So I don't give Jerry in the front office any leeway when it comes to that because with a better plan, with better execution, they could have done better.
Well, you're wasting, the prime years of another
Yep.
outstanding quarterback, one of the top quarterbacks in the game. Just like Jerry's often talked about as a general manager how he regrets, his biggest regret is he never gave Tony Romo a good enough team in his 9 years as a starting quarterback in the NFL, considering how he was acquired, an undrafted player who developed into a superstar, one of the top quarterbacks in the league, never had a good enough team around him. Same thing with Dak Prescott. So for 20 years, you've had Romo and Dak Prescott. You didn't use a pick of any kind on Romo, and Dak was a 4th-round pick. Now you played the game with him contractually and got beat in all the negotiations, and that's why he's still the highest paid player in the NFL by $5 million a year. But at least it looks like he's worth it given the way he's playing. But he can't overcome the deficiencies on the roster.
Yeah, no,
He overcomes the deficiencies on the offensive side of the ball, but he
right.
can't overcome the deficiencies that the other quarterback gets to play against. Like he
No.
can beat the best scoring defense in football for 40 points like he did last night, but then he can't get the support he needs from the other side of the ball. The worst defense in the NFL, as you said. I mean, so is Jerry ever going to figure this whole thing out, the whole equation out? Is the Micah Parsons trade going to provide him the assets he needs to do that? Is there going to be enough time? I mean, he talked about this in terms of this puts us in a position to win in Dak's, remaining Super Bowl window. Does it? He's in his 10th year already.
Well, and here's the problem. When he talks about getting those other players, let's start to think about what the Cowboys have done defensively in the draft, even with top picks. They have missed on too many defensively. So, yeah, you have the framework to try and improve your team, but can you execute well enough to make it happen? And unfortunately, when it comes to the defensive side of the ball and those top choices, yes, Micah, obviously, but I mean, when you go back to Taco Charlton, when you obviously Mozzie Smith, when you think about those guys, you just can't afford those kind of first round misses. I know they weren't high first rounders. I get that part of it, but you still can't have the just outright busts that they have been. And there's no other way to put it. I mean, I'm sorry. I've seen enough of Mozzie, and we have set the bar so low right now for him to try and show some improvement. It's just not there, And Sam Williams, I mean, he was so excited about this season in training camp. And what has he done, Ed? What has he done? I mean, he got a great pressure and then grabbed that face
He's
mask
been
for
the
the
same
15
guy.
yard
It's the
penalty.
same thing with him all the time.
Yes. I mean,
Just
it's just
foolish
too many
penalties.
mistakes. Yes. And I think that is, part of what's killing the Cowboys. And so yeah, Jerry, I mean, you can sell that hopium when it comes to, all these draft picks that you're going to have, but man, you got to improve the defense, and you've shown too many times that that's not that's not what you guys do. So, hey, try
And
again.
you're in a division with teams that do take advantage of opportunities in free agency,
Do
who
they
are
ever?
proactive in signing their best players so that they are getting good value and can put a better team around Jalen Hurts or Jaden Daniels or whoever it may be. And in the case of Jaden Daniels, he's a young ascending quarterback.
Yeah.
He's 8 years behind Dak. So yeah, I think it's all a very troubling scenario. And for a franchise that isn't proactive with its veteran players, and doesn't really participate in the early stages of free agency to improve their team, even after sitting here and watching, the Eagles go out and get Zach Bond as an all-pro linebacker and Saquon Barkley and go win a Super Bowl in your own division, it still doesn't change the way they go about building their team.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch, and it gets old, begs a lot of questions. How can you just keep doing it that way? And listen, we could bag on them, and we could continue to do so, but I'm going to try and balance it out, for our Cowboys fans who are tuning in here on WFAA Plus to the Playbook with yours truly, Joe Trahan, and the great Ed Werder. Javonte Williams has been an absolute beast. He's fun to watch. He's exactly what Dak Prescott needs, which means he's exactly what this Cowboys offense needs to be at its optimum level.
Yeah, he's created great balance and a threat in the running game. He's great without the ball in his hands. He's a great blitz pickup guy. I'm surprised, that
Yeah,
Denver gave him up. The Denver thought he was just a third down back, and the Cowboys were right. And guess where they got him? Free agency.
free agency.
The first player they signed this offseason in free agency. So he's been a great find, but you need more of those kinds of players. But yeah, I mean, that's fantastic trading for Pickens. That was beneficial. That was using resources in the right way. And they're going to need to take that approach, defensively. And now to the point in the season where they're starting to run out of the most winnable opponents, right? In the next 2 weeks, they're playing the Jets and Carolina, both on the road.
That's right.
Noon starts. They got to win both those games.
Yeah, these are decidedly un-Jerry type games. The noon games, not a whole lot of flash, not a whole lot of luster with these games, but man, you hit it on the head, Ed. They couldn't be more vital for this team to try and find some confidence, for that defense to try and get some traction. Listen, I mean, if they don't, Ed, if they don't, if the defense continues to struggle, I don't think I'm going too far to say that Matt Eberflus will be one and done really quickly. If it continues to happen these next 2 weeks, and listen,
and it may not be his fault entirely. Like,
true,
I think the bigger problem is the personnel on that side of the ball. I mean,
I agree. There's a
Eberflus,
problem there too.
like if you look at all the missed tackles, there were like 15 missed tackles last night. There were over 200 yards after the catch. I mean, it's ridiculous what's happening.
That's
And
a crazy stat. That's a
like
crazy stat.
guys should love playing zone coverage, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
your eyes are on the quarterback.
Eyes are on the quarterback and the ball.
Yeah, better chance to create takeaways and to no avail. But he inherited most of this personnel from Mike Zimmer and before that Dan Quinn. And so these guys were not necessarily the kind of players he wanted for his scheme.
So
but he did participate in the draft and free agency this year. But still, you can't get everybody you want on defense in a single offseason.
So perhaps that could give Jerry at least some pause before he makes.
But you're right. I mean,
but you can't continue to be historically bad.
Yeah, Justin Fields is not a viable passer. He is a threat as a runner.
Right.
I think he averages almost 50 yards a game on the ground as a running quarterback. So that'll be a concern. But Bryce Young, I mean, he's done nothing in the NFL. So you've got to be able to take advantage of that. They got to win these two games against these two quarterbacks.
All right. Well, listen, again, it's the fastest 30 minutes you could ever imagine. We did it again, Ed. Great stuff as always. Appreciate you. You are right. Cowboys got to get it going. They got to win these next two. And we hope that you join us next week for the Playbook with Joe Trahan and Ed Werder right here on WFAA Plus next Monday night at 7 p.m.